Oh my gosh, I feel like I have just been stabbed in the back because I have, and I have the bruise to prove it. Okay, I had a cyst taken out, and they had to cut my back. I think there needs to be a new telling on the Jesus poke thing. You know, he's supposed to be poked. It wasn't here. I didn't have a cyst here. It was on the back, which is a bit more similar to how I feel. I feel like the world has stabbed me in the back because it's like a metaphor for people doing things about you behind your back. But anyway, that is exactly what happened today. People did things about me behind my back. Um, and it's okay. I've got a whole bag of goodies as well, which is actually just bandages for a redressing tomorrow. But yeah, it went okay, but it was quite annoying because they made me wait like 4 hours yesterday, and because I had the GP appointment at 11:30, and it's like half-hour cycle away, you know, took half an hour to cycle there just to wait from 12:30 till like 4, and then they said they can't fit me in today, and then they had to bring me back at 7:30 in the morning, which was annoying. But the strangest thing is that when I felt when I was breathing in that stuff that puts you to sleep, I felt like, oh, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. The next thing I know, I'm in a different. I'm being sent back into the original room, and yeah, don't remember being in the recovery room or anything. So I didn't. They're supposed to wait until you wake up and then turn you, and so maybe I did start waking up, but didn't quite realize it. But anyway, it did remind me of when I was in LA. Yeah, I had one drink which was very strong, but the glass was like that big. It was like one of these really small plastic cups, and I think it was about half full of alcohol, but it was a really small plastic glass. And then I went to a nightclub, and I remember, well, the guy that I was with and talking to all night, you know, bought me a drink, and I do remember there was another guy, and I can't remember what he said, but I do remember him sort of asking me questions like, you know, how do you know this guy? And I said I met him in the hostel, and I know to, you know, you need to be careful of spiking. So I did try to stay close to the drink, but I think when he was asking me these questions, he did stand in between me and in the drink on the bar. So I don't know, but I'm trying to work out if I was actually spiked that night. And because waking up after this sort of general anesthetic, which puts you to sleep, you know, waking up after that reminded me of how I felt that night in LA, or the morning in LA, should I say. I was slightly hungover, but then again, I did have 3 drinks, so that could explain why I was slightly hungover. Plus, I was probably also jet lagged from the long flight. But yeah, it did feel almost the same. And kind of thinking about it, you know, there was a fight that broke out between that guy and the guy that I was with. The guy that I was with didn't seem violent in any way. But yeah, I feel like if he did spike my drink and then maybe said some things to the guy that I was with in hopes that he would kind of like walk off and just leave me in the bar or something, you know, and I think it's more likely that I probably was spiked that night. I don't know. I'll never know the answer to this. I know that because there was a fight that broke up, the bouncers saw and chucked both the guys out of the bar, and it was as we were walking out that apparently I fell over, and they called an ambulance, and that was the last thing I remember. But I don't know. Thinking about it, I feel like that's probably what happened. Maybe he did spike my drink. Maybe he did say something that was extra annoying to the guy that I was with, which probably deserved him a couple of hits, and that's the reason why they got shocked out. And it was only because of him saying that I was, you know, him drugging me first, maybe, that I did pass out. So I don't know. I don't know if that was the case, but I think if I was famous, I can imagine there being quite an interesting IO video about it, being like, you know, what do you think? You know, she doesn't remember the whole evening, but then again, she did have a few drinks and she was jet lagged, so maybe she was generally just tired. But then again, if that was the case, then who was this guy, and why did a fight break out, and you know, why does she not remember anything? And yeah, also when you come to after being it, you know, it's almost a sudden wake up. It's a sudden wake up to what you're going to, like, oh, where am I? Which room am I? You know, where am I? It's a sudden wake up, and that's how I felt in LA. I didn't feel like I woke up with a splitting headache. I felt like I just woke up dazed and confused. I don't know what's the word. Disoriented. I woke up feeling disoriented, which is how I felt today. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'll never ever know the answer. I think the only person who would know the answer is the guy that got hit. Or I don't actually remember the fight. I don't remember at all. I don't know. I don't remember that, but I do remember that guy was asking me questions about the guy that I was with. But anyway, I mean, I thought it was probably because he was going to ask me out or something. But anyway, um, I came across another review actually yesterday about The Sound of Freedom, and it was very different to my review because my review was actually talking about the subject of child sex trafficking, and is was I wasn't looking at the film as a film. I was looking at the film as in if this was real life, what how would what would how would people respond, or is this a good way to try and catch these people? Or I was looking at it from a completely different perspective, and I saw this other review where they were basically just talking about the actors and how it was kind of like the typical all American hero guy was seen to be like the big hero, and they didn't like it because it made him seem they heroified him rather than focusing um, on on the topics. But I feel like they that were doing the review were focusing on the acting and the overall production of the film rather than the actual topic. And I feel like the film is supposed to be the topic is supposed to be the thing that's most talked about, not the acting and stuff like that. And it was quite interesting. But I think when I watch films, I'm not looking at the acting. I'm not looking at the even the script. I mean, sometimes if the script is bad, a film's bad and you can't watch it. But yeah, I wasn't when I was thinking about the film, I wasn't thinking about the script or I was trying to relate it to a real life situation and trying to relate all the different people to real life people. And I think the hero guy probably might have been a bit more like he got very angry at the thought of when he saw this guy and knew that he was about to have sex with a child, he got hugely angry. And I know that there's a lot of people that would act in that way. But yeah, I also know that there's a lot of people that won't act in that way. And it made me think about a lot of things, such as, as a God, people think that God is all loving and kind. And yet, if God is real, God knows everything that happens on earth, hence knows all the shitty, horrible things and, child rape and gang rape and just a huge amount of violence and wars and people being killed with arrows thrown through their eyes. I'm pretty sure my higher self would have seen all of this. And I feel like someone who's seen all of this, there was a guy who was saying he was working for £2 an hour to make Chat GPT by sieving out through all the stuff on the internet, trying to get rid of all the rubbish. And he said that he needed like proper psychology and proper counseling because of having to go through all these horrible reports and trying to sieve out what to put into Chat GPT and what not. And he was making himself out to be a big victim and stuff. And I'm kind of just thinking back and thinking, how do you think God feels? My higher self has seen all of this. My higher self knows all of this and either can't stop it or can't stop it because she looks into the past of these people and maybe they do the same thing to others and therefore she doesn't want to stop it. In fact, if anything, she wants to set it up. If someone's doing this to other people, the best way to teach them and punish them, then teach them a lesson and punish them, is to set them up in a similar scenario in their next life. Only in the next one time they'll be the perpetrator, and the next life they'll be a victim. These people are saying how they need counseling because how angry that American guy got over the thought of seeing this. And I'm just thinking, well, my higher self has probably seen all of this, and maybe that's why I might come across sometimes as a monster, because sometimes I can talk about child sex trafficking and not feel a giant urge to beat these people up. I feel like a lot of people might have a giant urge to beat these people up, whereas I feel like I want to see things from both people's perspectives, even though seeing it from the perpetrator's perspective is probably disgusting and would anger most people. But I feel like I can remain fairly calm in that. And there was another situation with the guy who slept with the 14-year-old, thinking that she was 25, maybe thinking that she was a bit younger, but she was telling him that she was 25, and then afterwards she revealed that she was 14. But not only that she was 14, but that she'd been doing this since she was 6. And that made him feel completely suicidal, like this girl has just been kind of abused and taken advantage of all her life, and now he's just one more person that's come into her life and done that, and she's only feeling this way because of, being made to feel like shit throughout her whole childhood. And I feel like that's such a sad thing, but at the same time, I feel like there's it's sad if it's true, but then I also feel like putting myself in someone's position like that, if they have been forced to have sex with people since a very young age and have grown up and now are just used to it, I feel like the type of person that they would be not, not happy, not nice. They would turn into a person that's probably quite a vile person because of abuse being done on them. I feel like I might not be the most sensitive, emotional person when it comes to people's, if people have petty problems, part of me will just be like, oh, fuck off. There's bigger problems. I might come off insensitive towards some people's pettier problems because I know that there's worse things that I've gone through and there's worse things that other people have gone through. So it might come off as being quite cold towards in a way. But at the same time, I feel like someone who's like that, I felt more tempted to lie. You know, if someone is 14 and having sex with people, how do you know that they have actually been having sex since they were 6? A part of them might be have started when they were 12, and they're just so furious about the life that they're living and the situation that they're in, that maybe they deliberately tell people that they've been doing it since they're 6 to gain sympathy, to make people feel bad for what they're doing. If I was forced into being a prostitute and I got AIDS, my desire would be to sleep with as many people as possible so that I can pass the disease on to others and hurt others, because I feel like I've been hurt. Not everyone who's been hurt wants to hurt others, but people who have been hurt sometimes have a need to want to hurt others because of feeling the injustice in themselves, and just being a nasty person because they've been turned into a nasty person. And lying then becomes very difficult because it's very hard to spot the liars from those who tell the truth. There's some people who seem like they're very honest, genuine people, and then you can hear them talk about Jesus and things like this, and then you think, well, Jesus isn't real. So are they honest, genuine people, or are they just people that are trying to gain sympathy and gain your attention by telling you lies? And lying is a very hard thing. And if someone's in such thing as sex trafficking or something, I think if they're forced to sleep with 1 or 2 people a day, it might be easy to just for them to be like, oh, I do it 40 times a day. I mean, technically in their mind, they might be thinking about it 40 times a day, but what's the truth and what's not? And, I like films that make you think. And therefore, when I watched that film, I'm not concerned about the acting. I'm not concerned about the typical annoying, I'm the all-American hero that's come to save the day. I mean, if anything, I actually thought that was annoying, because he did kind of make it a little bit more about himself. But then again, you kind of want it to be about himself because you don't really want to talk about the topic. You don't really want to think about the topic that the film is actually discussing, because the film is discussing a very serious topic and stuff. So yeah, there's loads of different ways you can see it. But yeah, I think when it comes to a film like that, I wouldn't be focusing on the acting. I wouldn't be focusing on the film production or I don't know, angles they used. I would be talking about the events and how it relates to real life, or how I feel it relates to me, or what kind of memories it's brought up in me. But yeah, it was weird just watching this review and being like, wow, they've done this in a completely different way to how I would do a review of a film.